Here we go again with America versus China, with TikTok stuck in the middle. They've been at it regarding TikTok for months at this point, and they have hopes that a negotiation will be reached and ByteDance will hand over TikTok to an American company. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Chinese government will not relinquish TikTok. This platform is far too powerful and far too valuable to the Chinese CCP. 136 million Americans use TikTok at least once a month. And while the Chinese CCP doesn't technically own TikTok directly, the company that runs TikTok is a Chinese company, and therefore, by proxy, the Chinese CCP can access anything that they want on the platform. And besides, am I the only one out there who's noticed that TikTok trends and TikTok challenges and influencers and what have you, they don't ever seem to promote anything that's beneficial to American society, only decay. If it's generally bad for America, and it could be popular according to the TikTok algorithm, they will thrust it right up to the top of the trending list. And I will admit that not everything is destructive on TikTok. Look, people, they have openly admitted to how much debt that they've fallen into and how they're going to work to get out of it. They've also admitted to how high their car payments are. And of course, there's the feel good stuff like marriage proposals, enjoying vacations, giving money to the poor, and things of that nature. But generally speaking, in my opinion, the Chinese government has direct access to half the American population, and they can put whatever the hell they want in front of the eyes of 136 million Americans, whether they claim TikTok is owned by a private company or not. They still operate under the Chinese CCP. But I would just ask yourself, has TikTok been a blessing for America or a curse? Judging by the phrase TikTok brain, I'm going to go with the latter. So anyway, this is from Newsweek. Donald Trump signals breakthrough in U.S. China TikTok deal. And this was just published today, July 5th of 2025. Donald Trump said that he will start talking to China in the coming days about a possible deal with TikTok, which was banned in the United States over claims it posed a national security risk. It was only banned for a couple of days. It was admittedly pretty fun and rather enjoyable to watch all the meltdowns unfold, because when they shut off TikTok, of course, people migrated over to Instagram and X, and people were posting their freak out videos, almost literally tearing their hair out, freaking out as to what the hell they're going to do now. But anyway, the president told reporters on Friday the U.S. pretty much has a deal on the video sharing app. Critics had said TikTok could hand over U.S. user data to the Chinese government, an accusation the company has denied. Newsweek has contacted TikTok for comment, and I'm sure they didn't reply. Why it matters. Following national security concerns about TikTok user data, U.S. Congress passed a law in April 2024 forcing its sale. That's really interesting how it's a company that's owned, well, it's not owned by the Chinese CCP, but it runs in China. It operates in China, but yet the U.S. government can say, we don't care. You have to sell it anyway. I don't know. I don't think it's an egotistical thing that the U.S. has. We're extremely powerful. We're the most powerful country on earth, and this goes to show, how much power that we truly can have. Not that they're going to go through with this. I'm just saying that, how the U.S. can flex as much as we do. It seems to go a long way in most cases. So let's see here. A deal to spin off TikTok's U.S. operations into a U.S.-based firm was paused after China responded to Trump's announcements of tariffs on China. Trump's comments could add clarity to the future of the app in the United States. Trump had criticized the app during his first presidential term, but now supports its continued use in the U.S., and he extended to September the 17th, which is a deadline for the app's China-based owners, ByteDance, to divest TikTok's American assets. That extension was Trump's third executive order to delay the ban or sale of TikTok and gave ByteDance another 90 days to find a buyer. Look, Trump's old, but he's in with social media. He even started his own social media company. So he, I'm sure, is quite familiar with the inner workings of social media in general. But that said, does he really know how destructive and how cancerous that TikTok can really be on everyday Americans? Probably, I would say well over 50% of American teenagers are using TikTok on a regular basis, and I just don't see anything positive coming out of it. It's leading teenagers to develop bad habits, getting into fights, filming a bunch of nonsense drama. I just saw a video the other day that was posted on TikTok of 12 and 13-year-olds going up to people who are eating outside, like at restaurants, and they go over there and they just mash their hands into just random people's food while they're eating, and they'll just run off, and they film it all. And it's blowing up on TikTok. That got hundreds of thousands of views. It's absolutely insane. I mean, there's other teenagers, they'll, do the ding dong ditch. There's some guy in the UK, I don't know if he's under 18, but some dude in the UK, he runs his channel, posts all these videos by walking up to people's houses, checking to see if the door's unlocked. If it's unlocked, he opens up the door and just waltzes right into random people's houses. He'll run through the downstairs. If there's an upstairs, he'll run upstairs. He'll open up all the bedroom doors and just yell and just go ballistic, and then he'll just run out of the house and take off running. Dude's got millions and millions of views of him doing that. Like I said, it's destructive. I mean, nothing really good comes out of TikTok, at least not in my opinion. So anyway, let's see. Okay, so yeah, another 90 days to find a buyer. Amid the uncertainty about the U.S. future of the app, Trump told reporters on Air Force One on Friday that talks with China would start next week involving Chinese President Xi Jinping or one of his representatives. We pretty much have a deal, Trump added. He said he might visit Xi in China or the Chinese leader may visit the U.S. following mutual invitations last month to visit their respective countries. Trump had last month teased that there was a buyer for TikTok, telling Fox News there was a group of very wealthy people who were willing to acquire the platform and there would be a more certainty in about 2 weeks. However, TikTok's impact on democracy is under scrutiny. In May, investigative campaigning organization Global Witness told Newsweek it had examined the platform's algorithm and how it recommended political content. The group said TikTok directed new, politically balanced users disproportionately to hard-right content over and above all other content. I find that to be absolutely fucking untrue. There is no way in hell that TikTok is directing people over to extreme alt-right extremism. I absolutely doubt that. But they're talking about Romania and Poland and Germany. They're not talking about the United States. So I'm not familiar with how TikTok's going to be operating in these other countries. I just find that rather silly. Unless pushing people over to the right in those countries leads to destabilization, because that, in my opinion, is what TikTok, that's really what they're ultimately looking to do. They just want to erode Western society and degrade it and de-evolve Western society in any way that they can, while also doing it as subliminally as possible. So if that involves pushing people over to the quote-unquote hard right in Romania, Poland, and Germany, well, yeah, that honestly wouldn't surprise me if TikTok is actually doing that. So anyway, continuing, quote, it raises the question, why is TikTok's algorithm so into the hard right, end quote. Well, again, you may be wanting to ask those questions over in Romania, Poland, and Germany, if that's even really happening. But like I said, I think TikTok, Chinese CCP, ByteDance, whoever's really pulling the strings over at TikTok, I think they just want Western destabilization. That's really what they're looking for, if you want the answer to that question. Global Witness Campaign Strategy Lead, Ava Lee. So what people are saying, President Donald Trump said, I think we're going to start Monday or Tuesday talking to China, but we pretty much have a deal. I think it's good for them. I think the deal is good for China, and it's good for us, he added. So what happens next? There will be anticipation over whether the deadline of September 17th for ByteDance to divest the U.S. assets of TikTok will be met. A sale would need approval from the Chinese government. See, why do they need approval from the Chinese government if ByteDance is just their own independent private company? I thought the Chinese government wasn't involved with TikTok or with ByteDance or their inner workings. But ByteDance has to get approval from the Chinese government because, like I said, I think the Chinese government really has a lot more influence over TikTok than anybody would lead you to believe. They have access to everything. They can get into anything they want because that's what the Chinese CCP does. They have full control over everything that goes on in China, even if it's a separate company that isn't like technically intertwined with the CCP. They are. If they're in China, they're intertwined with the CCP, and the CCP can just waltz into that building, take whatever they want, download whatever they want, observe whatever they want, and do whatever they want. So anyway, a sale would need approval from the Chinese government, but Trump said he thought Xi would agree to it, touting his great relationship with the leader. And it looks like that's the end of the article. So I don't know, man. We'll just have to see what happens. Trump seems pretty confident that TikTok's going to be sold. I mean, we don't really know exactly who it's going to be sold to. I mean, is it going to be Microsoft? Is it going to be, anybody in big tech? Or is it going to be some big fancy bigwig on Wall Street maybe who might end up dumping money into it? Will it become an asset of BlackRock? Who knows? I have no idea. But anyway, that's all I got for now. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.